legislators to harmonize differences in the various versions of the Electoral Act amendment, particularly on whether the electronic transmission of election results should be mandatory or left to the discretion of INEC. While the House of Representatives endorsed real-time electronic transmission of results, the Senate adopted a conditional approach, a move that has sparked widespread public criticism. This development has triggered protests across parts of the country, driven largely by the Senate's decision to make real-time electronic transmission optional rather than compulsory. Protesters, led by civil society organizations and prominent political figures, including Peter Obi, argue that the decision creates what they described as a legal lacuna capable of encouraging electoral malpractice. They fear a repeat of irregularities witnessed in past elections, which they say could further stall Nigeria's democratic growth. Speaking on matters arising, our BCUS TV magazine program, political analyst and politician Mr. Dele Adewale expressed the view that Nigeria is not ready for real-time electronic transmission of election results.
It will save money, and it will save Nigeria from bad wagon effect. It will save Nigeria from bad wagon effect. The bad wagon effect is this. You've elected somebody as president. Some people will say, let our government belong to his party, so that our party will gain, so that our party will, our state will not be at opposition. So they will use that one to campaign against the next election. But if it is a day, you have your fate. So it will save cost and it will give us a better result.
According to him, poor internet connectivity across many parts of the country could expose the electoral process to manipulation and potentially trigger prolonged post-election disputes among contestants. He further noted that beyond network challenges, issues such as human error and inadequate infrastructure on the part of the electoral umpire could hinder the effective implementation of electronic transmission.
We are not ripe for real-time voting because there is internet problem. Even you yourself, take your phone now, call somebody, you will be discussing with that fellow. Before you know, your phone is off. When you call back, they will tell you the person is not available again. These are the issues we are facing. So if you want to look at, take e-transmission, the same problem will happen. Talk less of all these things. There are so many polling booths that doesn't even have internet, that you cannot even call or use internet from that polling booth. You have to move to another area before you get internet. There are so many villages that you have to climb tree before you get internet.
Network.
You have to climb mountain. So are you not telling me if you want to do e-transmission in all this area, you'll be climbing tree or you'll be climbing mountain to get network? So we are not ripe for this thing.
While electronic transmission of election results remain a central aspect of ongoing electoral reform discussions, stakeholders insist that adequate infrastructure, transparency, and institutional preparedness must be in place to prevent disputes and safeguard Nigeria's democracy.
The Minister of Federal Capital Territory, FCT, Nyesom Wike, has expressed strong optimism that the prolonged political crisis in Rivers State is close to a final resolution following a fresh intervention by President Bola Tinubu. Wike spoke to journalists on Tuesday in Abuja after inspecting several ongoing projects in the FCT. He praised President Tinubu's role in addressing the deepening rift between the executive and legislative arms of government in Rivers State, describing the president as a unifying figure whose leadership was crucial to restoring stability. Wike said the priority now is stability and forward movement for Rivers State, adding that all stakeholders are committed to ensuring lasting peace. He expressed gratitude to President Tinubu for what he described as the president's tireless efforts to foster understanding and reconciliation.
The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Y.D. Shaibu, has approved the immediate deployment of the Chief of Army Staff Intervention Battalion of Special Forces to Plateau State. The troops already in the state are tasked to aggressively and decisively address the recent resurgence of terrorist attacks. A press release signed by the Media Information Officer of the Joint Task Force Operation Enduring Peace, Captain Chinozote, and slighted on the Nigerian Army's X-handle on Tuesday, described the move as a potential game-changer in tackling insecurity in the region. He urged the troops to be decisive and ruthless in carrying out offensive operations against terrorists. The deployment comes against a backdrop of the renewed violence in the north-central region in 2026.
The Deputy Governor of Oyo State, Barrister Oluyole, has called for a critical review of Nigeria's federal structure, stressing that meaningful growth and development are unlikely without addressing existing imbalances in power distribution. Barrister Oluyole made the remarks today while contributing as a panelist at the 2026 National Economic Council NEC conference held at the banquet hall of the State House, Abuja. The conference brought together key policymakers, including the Governor of Bayelsa State, Doye Dere, the Deputy Governor of Delta State, and the Minister of Regional Development, among others. The panel, which focused on the sub-theme, strengthening interstate collaboration and strategies in a federal system, examined the challenges and opportunities of governance in Nigeria's federal arrangements. Highlighting the gap between theory and practice, Barrister Oluyole noted that while Nigeria is constitutionally a federal state, the operational realities suggest otherwise. He also emphasized the importance of interstate collaboration in a federal system, citing the Southwest Security Network, Amotekun, as a successful model.
This broadcast of Newscope comes to you from the Broadcasting Corporation of Oyo State, Ibadan. Oyo State Governor Engineer Seyi Makinde has lauded the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Adebogundoyin, on the successful completion of his tenure as the Chairman of the Conference of Speakers of State Legislature of Nigeria. The Governor described Ogundoyin's tenure as eventful, noting that he recorded remarkable and trailblazing achievements and made the state proud through his efforts while he served as the head of the Conference of Speakers. According to Governor Makinde, Right Honorable Ogundoyin's historic emergence as the youngest and first speaker from an opposition party to chair the body was quite remarkable, with his emergence symbolizing a generational shift and ushering in a reform-driven and inclusive leadership. The Governor saluted Ogundoyin's vision and commitment to service, which he noted enabled him to achieve the initiation of the digital transformation of state legislatures by partnering with the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, to modernize legislative processes and the defense of legislative autonomy by strengthening the institutional voice of the state legislatures. The Oyo State Governor further praised Ogundoyin for leading the conference to achieve the harmonization of legislative procedure, establishment of post-legislative scrutiny unit, noting that Ogundoyin spearheaded the creation of Nigeria's first post-legislative scrutiny unit at the sub-national level.
The Oyo State government has reaffirmed its commitments to improving traffic management through sustained capacity building and the promotion of ethical service delivery. The head of service, Mrs. Olubumioni, made this known at a one-day seminar for commanders and ticketing officers of the Oyo State Road Traffic Management Authority, ORTMA. Addressing participants at the seminar, the Oyo State Head of Service, Mrs. Oluyole, represented by the Permanent Secretary, Service Policy and Strategy in the Office of the Head of Service, Mr. Taiwo Mustafa, emphasized that effective road traffic management is a vital element of the state's overall risk management framework. She noted that continuous training is essential for improved performance, stressing that officers cannot be held responsible for lapses if they are not adequately equipped with the necessary skills and knowledge. Mrs. One further highlighted that resilience must be complemented by ethical conduct, adding that public perception of traffic officers is largely influenced by their individual behavior and level of professionalism on the road. In his welcome address, the chairman of the Oyo State Road Traffic Management Authority, OLTMA, retired Major Adeshagba Adekoya, urged traffic officers across the state to uphold resilience, ethics and professionalism in the discharge of their duties.
Despite the installation of traffic lights at major intersections across Oyo State to regulate traffic and save lives, many motorists and motorcyclists continue to disobey the signals, creating dangerous situations on the road. The act of beating red lights has become a common sight, especially during peak hours, raising serious safety concerns among road users and traffic authorities. Our reporter, Abimbola Shawande, examines the menace of disobeying traffic lights and the efforts of the Oyo State Road Traffic Management Authority, OLTMA, to curb it.
Findings revealed that impatience and rush to make quick gains or make it to work early are some of the reasons road users disobey traffic lights, despite being aware of the risk involved. Some commercial motorcyclists who spoke with Business News noted that beating traffic lights often leads to collision with vehicles and poses serious danger to pedestrians. They stressed the need for strict obedience to traffic signals in order to prevent accidents and loss of lives. Another rider noted that traffic lights are installed for the safety of all road users, calling on fellow riders and motorists to exercise patience and obey traffic rules at all times.
Maybe they're already late for work in the morning, maybe, or they have emergency to go with it. So that's the only thing they can make them to make it. They should, all their body, they don't used to calm down. All those bikes and the vehicles, they don't used to calm down at all. And after complaining, anything, any other thing. Some of them, they'll see the traffic lights, they will not wait. They'll just pass nearby. You are in your hurry. You have to calm down no matter how.
Nǹkan tí mo bẹ̀rẹ̀ níbẹ̀ ni pé fún àǹfààní gbogbo aráàlú tí wọ́n bá ti mú yàn dúró at least ó yẹ kéèyàn lè dúró fún iná tó bá ti mú yàn dúró because so many times tí issue máa ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ní bíbá accident lóríṣiríṣi ló máa ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ní bíbá yìí tó yẹ pé màyẹn tí wọ́n ti fi náà síbẹ̀. So accidents lóríṣiríṣi máa ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ẹ̀sẹ̀ àwọn ọlọ́kadà àti àwọn ọmọlúwa yẹn so àmàlà mi fún wọn ni pé kó jẹ́ kí a follow rule and regulation traffic law so that wọ́n máa jẹ́ àǹfààní fún gbogbo aráàlú lápapọ̀.
Oyo State Road Transport Management Authority Act of 2009 mandated the enforcement of traffic laws to curb traffic lights violations across the state, urging road users to cooperate with the officers and obey traffic regulations. As traffic volume continues to rise in Oyo State, obeying traffic lights remains a shared responsibility of authorities and road users that must not be ignored.
Let's now go over to our sports studio for the latest news updates from the exciting world of sports with Victor Opone.
A warm welcome to you on the sports segment of the news tonight. I am Victor Opone. We start with the news. 4 players were ejected after a mass brawl as the Detroit Pistons beat the Charlotte Hornets 110-104 in a bad-tempered NBA fixture. Detroit's Jalen Duren was fouled by Charlotte's Musa Diabate during their third quarter, with the pair then confronting one another and appearing to butt heads. Diabate had to be held back as he tried to hit Duren before several other players got involved in the incident. Detroit forward Isaiah Stewart confronted Charlotte's Miles Bridges and put him in a headlock before appearing to strike him multiple times. The brawl lasted about 30 seconds, ending with a brief police presence on the floor. Diabate, Duran, Stewart and Breach were ejected, and Hornets coach Charles Lee was kicked out in the fourth quarter after he had to be restrained while angrily shouting at the officials, having disagreed with the decision. San Francisco 49ers defensive lineman Keyon White has had surgery after being shot in the ankle. The incident reportedly happened on Monday, and the injury is not considered career or life-threatening. The San Francisco Police Department is yet to make an arrest. White attended Sunday's Super Bowl at Levi's Stadium in California as his former team, the New England Patriots, lost to the Seattle Seahawks. The 27-year-old was traded to the 49ers in 2025 and, including the playoffs, made 11 appearances last season. The American has featured in 47 games, starting 20 since first being drafted in 2023. He has registered 100 tackles, 7.5 sacks, 9 passes defended, and 2 forced fumbles during his time with the 49ers and Patriots. He is the second 49ers player to be shot in the past 18 months after teammate Ricky Pearsall was injured during an attempted robbery. And as we wrap up in football, Paul Green has left his role as Chelsea's head of women's football after 13 years at the Women's Super League club. Green worked closely with former manager Emma Hayes, helping her deliver 5 successive WSL titles and reach a first Women's Champions League final. He acted as interim manager in Hayes' absence in 2022 when she had emergency eye hysterectomy surgery, and has led recruitment across a number of successful transfer windows. The club said Green played a significant role in the development and growth of the women's program and contributed to the establishment of strong foundations and the evolution of Chelsea women into one of the leading teams in the domestic and European game. Chelsea have won 19 trophies during Green's spell at the club, but it is believed this role started to change when the women's team was restructured in 2024.
Thank you for joining us. It's a wrap on the sports segment of the news. Over now to the main desk for the rest of the news.
And on the foreign scene, the United States and Armenia have struck an agreement on civil nuclear cooperation amidst a push by Washington to strengthen ties with the West Asian country that was once a close ally of Moscow. Foreign Desk editor Folashade Akitola compiled details of what the deal is all about and other stories as presented by Bimbo Akombi.
Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan and U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, who is on a 2-day visit to the country, signed the multi-billion-dollar nuclear energy deal on Monday. The deal, known as a 1-2-3 agreement, sees the United States entering a sector previously dominated by Russia, which had supplied the technology for the only nuclear power plant in the Republic. Vance said the agreement, which allows the U.S. to legally license nuclear technology and equipment to other countries, will enable up to $5 billion in initial U.S. exports to Armenia, plus an additional $4 billion in longer-term fuel and maintenance contracts. The deal related to small modular reactors, he said, adding that Washington had enough confidence in Armenia to supply it with this new technology. Vance's visit, the first to Armenia by a sitting U.S. president or vice president, comes 6 months after the Armenian and Azerbaijani leaders signed an agreement with the White House, seen as the first step towards peace after decades of war. In the meantime, President Donald Trump has threatened to block the opening of a bridge connecting the United States and Canada until Washington is fully compensated for everything it has given to its northern neighbor. Trump insisted that the Gordie Howe International Bridge connecting the Canadian province of Ontario to the United States of Michigan will not open until Ottawa treats the United States with the fairness and respect. According to the project's website, the bridge is being funded by the Canadian government but will be publicly owned by both Canada and Michigan. Michigan Senator Elissa Slotkin, a Democrat, said closing the incredibly important infrastructure project will be awful for the state's economy. It is not clear how President Trump will block its opening, but he said negotiations will begin immediately without elaborating. And finally, Australia is bracing for more demonstrations as political leaders and civic groups appealed for calm after police were accused of using excessive force against peaceful demonstrations, which came up against the visit of Israel's President Isaac Herzog to Sydney. Palestine Action Group Sydney called on supporters to gather on Tuesday afternoon to protest against police brutality and demand the resignation of government and police officers over what they described as the violent repression of peaceful demonstrators. Violence erupted on Monday evening in the heart of Sydney after police prevented thousands of peaceful protesters from marching in an area of the city that authorities had designated off-limits. Some estimates put the number of demonstrators at 50,000. Organizers of the protest said police pepper-sprayed and assaulted rally-goers. Police said 27 people were arrested, including 10 allegedly for assault. Abigail Boyd, an opposition Greens lawmaker in Australia's state parliament, said she was punched by police officers at a rally and witnessed police violence against others. Protests organizers say the Israeli president, whom the United Nations Commission of Inquiry has found to be responsible for inciting genocide against Palestinians in Gaza by Israeli forces, should not be immune from protests against his visit to Australia. Bimbo Akambi, BCUS News.
To end this edition of Newscope, here again are the main points. The Senate on Tuesday amended Section 60 of the Electoral Act to allow presiding officers at polling units to electronically transmit election results to the Independent National Electoral Commission's INEC results viewing portal, IREV.
The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Y.D. Shaibu, has approved the immediate deployment of the Chief of Army Staff Intervention Battalion of Special Forces to Plateau State.
The Deputy Governor of Oyo State, Barrister Oluyole, has called for a critical review of Nigeria's federal structure, stressing that meaningful growth and development are unlikely without addressing existing imbalances in power distribution.
And the United States and Armenia have struck an agreement on civil nuclear cooperation amidst a push by Washington to strengthen ties with the West Asian country that was once a close ally of Moscow.
And that's all from Newscope Desk. For now, it was packaged by Folashade Akintola and delivered by
Jamila Ilibide. Good evening.
And Josephine Oluwabumi. Thanks for listening. Do not forget to tune in for the Yoruba version at 8 p.m. Good evening.
All across Nigeria, one truth prevails. Football is not just played on the pitch. Arguments fly, tensions shift like defenders on the pitch. And when the ball finally enters the net, that is the 12-player full attack mode. 11 players play on the pitch, but we, the fans, play from anywhere. With Betano, fans don't just watch the match, we influence the game. Register now and join the 12th player. Betano, not for persons under the age of 18. Bet responsibly.
Charity ẹni fẹ́ ṣàríyá o, gbogbo ẹni fẹ́ ṣàjọ̀dún, àbẹ́ni fẹ́ ṣèpàdé o, gbogbo ẹni fẹ́ ṣènáwó. BCOS Background, òun yẹn máa bọ̀. BCOS Background, òun ló kájọ ẹ̀ fún gbogbo ayẹyẹ. Èyí tẹ́yìn bá fẹ́ ṣe, BCOS Background, òun yẹn máa bọ̀ o. Bóyá wá gbé mi débẹ̀ yóò, ilé akéde. Bóyá wá gbé mi débẹ̀ yóò, BCOS Background. BCOS Background, débi tílẹ̀ ti tẹ́jú, àyè ìgbọ́kọ̀sí bẹ́ẹ̀, ìyẹn pọ̀ jaburata. BCOS Background, ìyẹn nílé akéde, oríta Báṣọ̀run, nílùú Ìbàdàn. BCOS Background, òun yẹn máa bọ̀ o. Ohun tá à ń sọ ni pé onírúurú ayẹyẹ tẹ́yìn bá fẹ́ ṣe, ó ti wù kó fẹjú tó. BCOS Background, òun ló kájú ẹ̀, òun ló káàtó. Ṣókùn àgbà lẹ́yìn fẹ́ ṣe ni, tàbí ìgbéyàwó, tàbí birthday, tàbí open year crusade. Wọ́n sì jẹ́ book launch ní tiyín ni. Ẹ máa bọ̀. Ẹ̀yin sá ti kàn sí wa ní yàrá kẹrin commercial department BCOS ilé akéde. Tàbí kẹ́ ẹ pè sórí BCOS customer care line. Tololong 091587